jealous stepsister tried to ruin my wedding by claiming my fiancé wanted to run away with her. So I called her husband and told him about it, leading to their divorce. I, 25F, recently got married to my fiancé and boyfriend of almost 7 years, Noah, 25M. My entire family was invited to the wedding, including my stepsister, Charlotte, 24F. Our parents got married when I was 9 years old and Charlotte was 8. My mother married her father, and we were fine with it at the time because we had already known each other for a couple of years and our parents had been together for almost 3 years before they got married. So to be more accurate, we actually met each other for the first time when I was 6 and she was 5. We got along reasonably well. I lived in a neighborhood where there were not a lot of kids to play with, and whenever Charlotte and her dad would come over, I would be thrilled, and we would have a great time. Even as we grew older, we had a nice relationship and I considered her a close friend even up until middle school. It was not until we started high school that things started going between us, and it was so typical and sad because it happened due to a boy. Noah, to be more precise. My dad had cheated on my mother with a friend of hers when she was pregnant and promptly decided that he wanted nothing to do with her or me after I was born when he was caught, so he signed away his rights and moved away with his girlfriend. They were never married, so she never saw him again, and since my grandparents were reasonably well off, she decided that she didn't even want child support from him because she wanted nothing to do with him anymore. So I never met my dad and I don't know him. My stepdad was pretty much the first father figure that I had in my life. Charlotte's mother had, unfortunately, passed away when she was very little from multiple health issues and the pregnancy had just complicated things. So my mother had full custody of me and Charlotte's dad had full custody of her, so when they started dating and moved in together, we ended up spending all our time with each other. She was close to my age and it was great because I had a constant companion. As I had mentioned before, Charlotte and I were really close until high school. She had started her education earlier than usual, so even though she was a year younger than me, we were in the same grade at school. We started high school together and had a bunch of classes together as well. And with us, we had Noah. His family had moved to our town that year and he was the newest student in our high school. I took a liking to him almost instantly and unfortunately, so did Charlotte. He was cute and really sweet, and even though both of us had dated other boys before, we were just kids at the time, and it didn't really count. I could sense that Charlotte liked him just as much as I did, so I decided to talk to her about it and we promised each other that neither of us would try to make a move on him or get with him, out of respect for the other because we didn't want to let a boy get in between us. We were just teens and we liked a boy, big deal. Both of us figured that we would be able to move on from our little crush on Noah, but unfortunately, it didn't work that way. Since the three of us had a lot of classes together, we ended up becoming good friends, and as I got to know him, I started liking him even more. He was everything that I wanted in a guy, but I knew what I had promised, and I kept things strictly platonic. Even though Noah would constantly try to flirt with me, I never reciprocated because I knew I couldn't hurt Charlotte. She and I never talked about him at home or otherwise because we knew this was a sensitive topic for both of us and we didn't want to bring it up with each other. So that's how things went on until our senior year. Around the time that people were asking each other out for prom, I was about to say yes to some other guy when I found out from Noah that Charlotte had asked him to go to prom with her. He had confronted me when I was on my own and told me that Charlotte had not only asked him to go to prom with her, she had also confessed that she had feelings for him, and wanted to be more than friends. I was shocked that she would do such a thing, after promising me that she would never make a move on him, and telling me to do the same. It was just unacceptable and I was hurt by it. But then, Noah also told me that he had turned her down because he didn't see her as anything more than a friend, and even though he had always felt that she was trying to get with him, he had never reciprocated. He told me that for the past couple of years, ever since he joined this school and became friends with us, Charlotte had been trying to flirt with him, and acted differently around him when it was just the two of them, and he had sensed that she liked him, but he didn't do anything about it, and the reason for that was because he liked me. The reason that he had confronted me and chosen to tell me all about this was because even though he liked me and kept trying to get me to flirt back with him, I would never do the same and never expressed any interest in him. And now that our senior year was about to come to an end, and we were going to go separate ways for college, he needed to get an answer, because he wanted to know if we were ever going to happen. So he told me that I could either give him an answer and tell him if I liked him or not, and if I didn't, he would know where he stood and start thinking about asking other girls to prom. I still remember that day very clearly because it was a significant one. After the conversation that I had with Noah, I was very disoriented because it was a lot to process. He had not only told me that he liked me and had for a really long time, but he had also told me that Charlotte had been trying to flirt with him relentlessly even after promising me that she would never do anything to jeopardize our friendship. And that hurt because I really used to consider her as nothing less than my sister. So after Noah had cornered me that day and told me everything, I told him that I needed a day to think and sleep on it, and I would have an answer for him by the next day. I honestly didn't know what to tell him because everything hinged on the conversation that I would have with Charlotte once I got home that day. I decided to skip the rest of the classes and head home because I didn't want to walk home with her. I was just that sick to my stomach after finding out the truth. Once I got home, I waited for her, and when she came back, she was very casual about everything and acted as if nothing had happened. She didn't say anything about Noah, or the fact that she had asked him out, despite the many promises that we had made to each other. So I brought it up and decided to confront her and get to the bottom of this. I asked her if it was true that she had asked Noah out for prom and confessed her feelings, and she immediately got real defensive about it and told me that it was none of my business because that was between Noah and her. But you see, it was a lot of my business because she had promised me that she wouldn't do anything of the sort, and had made me promise that I wouldn't try to get with him either. So for ages, I had been suppressing my feelings for him while she had been making move after move on him. And that was incredibly unfair because I honestly didn't just like Noah, I'm fairly certain that I was in love with him by that point. And it wasn't easy for me to just continue, ignoring all his advances for the sake of my relationship with Charlotte. I didn't want to hurt her, and I had prioritized her feelings over mine, only to find out that she was not willing to do the same for me. So when I confronted her, we got into a really nasty fight, and I made up my mind that I was going to go out with Noah. It was evident to me that Charlotte couldn't care less about my feelings, and I didn't see any reason for me to continue putting her feelings over mine anymore, because she had essentially told me, during the fight, that she had wanted to spare my feelings by making that promise because she knew that if it came down to it then Noah would obviously pick her over me. It was extremely arrogant of her to say that, and I was just done with her because she had betrayed me on the worst level possible. So the next day, I told Noah everything. Like, everything. The promise that Charlotte and I had made to each other and the fight that we had the previous day, and he was very understanding about it. He told me that he was ready to wait for me if it took me longer to come around, but I told him that I was in love with him and I couldn't deny it any longer. So we started dating the very same day, and it's been 7 beautiful years of us being together. I have no regrets. Obviously, we had to cut Charlotte off and we didn't speak to her again after that day. It was a lot easier for him, but it was different for me because I actually lived with her. We used to share a room, but after our fight and after I started going out with Noah, she moved into the basement so she could live separately, and I had no complaints about it. Our parents asked us, several times, what had gone wrong, but I never told them about any of it, and I don't think Charlotte did either. We just stopped speaking to each other after that day, and it was difficult initially, but we got used to it. Noah and I ended up going to the same college, and Charlotte picked one across the country, so I didn't have to see her for the next couple of years, and would only meet her on the holidays. After we graduated from college, Noah and I were still going strong, and Charlotte had started dating a guy from her college as well. All of us soon started working, and our fight started feeling like something out of a high school TV show because it was just petty and didn't matter anymore. Charlotte and I would meet each other at family gatherings, and even though we would never consciously make an effort to talk to each other like we did as kids, we started being civil to each other, and would at least greet each other like family. We would stick to small talk and safe topics, and nothing more. So things started changing, and we were at least on talking terms as we grew into adulthood. And then, last year, she announced her engagement to her boyfriend from college, and I congratulated her. It was all very formal, and she told me that she would love to have me at the wedding. It was kind of bittersweet because when we were little, we would always be each other's maid of honor whenever we would have make-believe weddings, but when I attended her wedding, I was just a guest. So I guess I was happy that we were finally acting like adults and patching things up, but I was also kind of sad that things would never go back to the way that they were. We had been on speaking terms since then, and she even seemed to be fine with Noah. Of course, I had the good sense not to bring him to her wedding as my +1 because that would be kind of weird and insensitive, even though she had moved on completely, and was actually getting married to someone else. But sure enough, she picked up on it, and when we were talking and socializing after the ceremony, she told me that I could have brought Noah along with me because she had moved on and didn't care about it anymore because it was all in the past. But I guess I shouldn't have taken her word for it, because what happened recently was a testament to the fact that she had in fact not moved on even one bit and was still a humongous jerk. A couple of months ago, I'd say 8, Noah proposed to me, and I obviously said yes because the timing was just right. He had just been promoted at work and I had quit my job to join my friend in her startup, both of which were great things. I was looking forward to having a stress-free, drama-free wedding, but I guess I shouldn't have invited Charlotte if I wanted that. She congratulated me when I got engaged and that was it. I thought that things were fine. I invited her to the wedding and she accepted the invitation. There was no way that I was expecting anything to go wrong, but a week ago, on the day of the wedding, Charlotte decided that she was going to make one last-ditch effort to ruin my relationship. Noah and I were getting married in a hotel a little out of town, and most of our close friends and family members were living in the hotel with us. The two of us, along with our parents and bridesmaids and groomsmen, arrived 2 days ago, while other family members and friends and people coming from out of town reached a day before the wedding. Now, Charlotte and her husband were supposed to come to the venue a day before the wedding, but they showed up on the same day as us, which threw us off a little, but they made it seem like an honest mistake. And luckily, or maybe unluckily, the hotel did have some vacant rooms, so it worked out for them. I genuinely believe that Charlotte had made a mistake and didn't think much of it because I had no idea what she had up her sleeve. But on the day of my wedding, I finally understood what she was trying to do. I was getting my makeup done and stuff when I noticed her constantly looking outside my room, and I thought that it was a bit strange because the guests were supposed to be either in their rooms or just having fun. After all, we had booked a major part of the hotel that we were staying in and they were free to do whatever they wanted until it was time for the ceremony. So for her to leave all of that, and lurk outside my room was kind of weird, especially since she was neither a bridesmaid nor my mom. Once I was ready, my bridesmaids and my mother went to their rooms to get dressed and get their makeup done themselves. There was just 1 hour to go before the ceremony was supposed to start, and since they didn't need as much time to get dressed and everything, I figured that we would have enough time to get down to the venue on time and decided to take a little walk down the corridor outside my room to calm my nerves. I couldn't leave that floor or go anywhere else because I didn't want anybody else to see me in my wedding dress, but right then, I was caught by Charlotte outside my room, and she pulled me aside, saying that she wanted to talk about something very important to me. I had no idea what this could be about because she and I, while we had been on speaking terms, hadn't actually had any intimate or personal conversations, so this was a bit weird. But I let her talk to me out of curiosity. And then, she started telling me that she had reached the hotel a day earlier than scheduled, not by accident, but on purpose because apparently, Noah had asked her to. She told me that she had come, only because he had asked her to, but she had no idea why he had asked her to come earlier so that he could ask her to elope with him. She fed me some rubbish story about how Noah had contacted her around 2 weeks before the wedding, saying that he was getting cold feet, and he was afraid that he was making a mistake by marrying me because it had taken him a long time, but he had finally come to terms with the fact that he was no longer in love with me, but had fallen for her. She said that apparently, they had been in touch behind my back for a really long time, but it had all been platonic. However, he had fallen for her and had told her to come by earlier so that they could run away together. And he had been pressuring her to agree to his reckless plan, ever since she had shown up at the hotel, since he didn't feel brave enough to talk to me because he was afraid that I would end up doing something crazy, and he didn't want to be responsible for it or even around me when it happened. But apparently, my dear Charlotte couldn't do this to me, and believed that she had to be honest with me. So she, like a normal person, had picked the hour before my wedding to come clean to me about this huge thing. Now, obviously, I was fully aware of the fact that she was lying through her teeth about all of this because I had faith in Noah, and I knew that he would never do something like this to me. And besides, he was a very straightforward and blunt guy, and if he had something to say, he would just say it to my face instead of going behind my back. He and I were not cowards who ran away from problems. This story that Charlotte was telling me seemed pretty out of character for him, which is how I was able to tell that she was lying. It was infuriating because she was pretending like it was coming from a place of concern, and she was worried about me and my relationship. I knew that she was actively trying to create drama when there was nothing happening just to spoil my wedding, so I decided to go even lower and called up her husband right in front of her. I didn't have his phone number, but I did follow him on Instagram, so that's where I placed the call. I was pretending to be devastated and I was standing in front of Charlotte, so she couldn't exactly see what I was doing on my phone, but she didn't stop me because she figured that I was probably going to call Noah and confront him, or even break up with him, and that's what she wanted. But she didn't have a clue that I was actually calling her husband, who was in another part of the hotel, and thankfully, he answered my call. I repeated everything that Charlotte had said to me before asking if that was true, and she didn't say a word because she was still thinking that it was probably Noah that I was on a call with. I don't even know what she was planning because one look through their texts and emails would tell me the truth, so I had no idea what her game was here. But anyway, after I was done talking, I decided to put my phone on speaker so that Charlotte would also be able to hear her husband's response. And sure enough, her husband was shocked to hear about all of this and said that he was going to come back to his room immediately. And when Charlotte heard her husband's voice on the phone as opposed to Noah, she freaked out completely and started screaming at me. She said that I was trying to sabotage her marriage on purpose, and I just told her that I was doing to her exactly what she was trying to do to me, and then walked back into my room. I told my bridesmaids what had happened and said that they needed to make sure that she didn't turn up at the wedding or during the ceremony because I didn't trust her and I wanted her out. But turns out, I didn't have anything to worry about because the ceremony went smoothly and Charlotte didn't even try to interrupt anything by showing up because I guess she was too busy trying to smooth things out with her husband after the little stunt that she had pulled. And nobody at the wedding even noticed that she was not present, except for our parents. After the ceremony, when they asked me where Charlotte was, I told them that I would tell them later, but I didn't have any intention of letting them know because it wasn't important to me. After everything was wrapped up, I contacted the hotel authorities to ask what had become of Charlotte's room, and to my satisfaction, they told me that she had checked out during the wedding, and they were gone now. Nobody brought up anything in the aftermath of the wedding, and I was glad about it because I only wanted to enjoy being a newlywed without having to talk about Charlotte and her stupid little act. I did tell Noah about it and we had a good laugh afterward, but that was about it. However, it's been a week since then, and 2 days ago, we found out that Charlotte and her husband were separating. Our parents were the ones who informed me and said that her husband had apparently called them up and yelled at them about how awful Charlotte was and told them that they needed to come and get her because she refused to leave their house, and if she didn't go, he would call the cops on her. So they had to pick her up, and they found out that they were separating because her husband had found it very insulting that Charlotte had reached the wedding venue early on purpose because she wanted to sabotage me. He had heard the entire story from me, and for ages, he had been hearing about how great Noah was, and how Charlotte should have been the one to end up with him from her friends, who are clearly very stupid, and he couldn't take it anymore because it was very obvious that she still had feelings for him, and that's why she was trying to ruin my wedding. That was pretty much the last straw for him, and he had decided that he was going to end this marriage, because no matter how much she insisted on it, she was in love with someone else, and it wasn't something he could deny anymore. So they are going to get divorced, and I don't know why, but my parents think that this is my fault and are blaming me for it. They think that, despite what Charlotte had tried to do, I should have kept her marriage and her husband out of it, because by dragging him in and calling him, I had ruined her marriage. So now, they expect me to apologize to her and are refusing to talk to me because I said I was not going to do that. I literally do not understand how this is my fault, because I didn't ask Charlotte to do something so psychotic. All I did was hit her where it hurt because she tried to do it to me first. That's all that I did, and think it's very unfair to hold it against me. She ruined her own marriage, and I had nothing to do with it. Noah also feels the same way, but my parents and a lot of our mutual friends with Charlotte are on her side, and it's screwing with my brain right now. Ida for involving my stepsister's husband when she tried to sabotage my wedding on purpose by lying about my husband. Update 1. Hello, people of Reddit. First and foremost, I would just like to thank everyone who commented on my original post and made sure to tell me that I am not in the wrong here. That helped me realize how unfair my parents and a couple of my friends were, so I decided to cut them off. Honestly, I don't see any other way out of this, because if I don't cut ties with them, then they will just continue blaming me for it and making me feel like crap about it. And at some point, people are bound to crack. I don't want to crack and apologize to Charlotte, so it's for the best if I cut everybody off. Anyway, isn't that what my parents wanted? They were the ones who were refusing to talk to me because I wasn't ready to apologize to Charlotte, so now they have what they want and I'm not talking to them either. As for my friends, if they are really going to take Charlotte's side on this and make me the bad guy, then they are welcome to do so. It just helped me realize that they were never my true friends in the first place. Everyone knows that Charlotte is the one at fault here, and if anything, she is the one who owes me an apology. They can keep denying it, but it's not going to change the facts. And honestly, I'm not interested in changing the facts either, or changing anybody's mind. Everyone can believe what they want to. I just want to spend time with Noah, and that is it. Update 2. Hey, so Noah and I have left for our honeymoon. It's been close to 2 weeks since the wedding, and I'm still not talking to my parents. Not talking to my friends doesn't hurt as much because I have my husband now, and if I'm being honest, I wasn't really that connected to those people anyway, so it's not like it makes a huge difference to me or something. But not talking to my parents, yeah, that stinks. I keep wanting to text my mom and talk to her, or just call up my stepdad and have a funny little conversation with him, but then I remember that I can't do it because they have decided to take Charlotte's side on this. From what I know, she is living with them, and probably feeding them more lies about me, so as to turn them against me fully. No doubt, by the time I get back, my parents will probably end up hating me. I can still understand that my stepdad wants to be there for his daughter, but I cannot understand why my mom isn't taking my side on this. She literally got cheated on by my dad, and he left us to be with someone she called her friend. That's exactly what Charlotte was trying to do here. She was trying to screw me over so she could have Noah all for herself. I feel like my mother, of all people, should at least understand why I was mad at her and why I did what I did. But if she doesn't understand me and thinks that I'm the villain here, I don't know what to say anymore. It's fine though, because Noah and I are on our honeymoon right now, and hopefully, this will help with cheering me up and make me forget about my problems. Update 3. On the third day of my honeymoon, I received a text from my mother, but I'm not going to open it until I get back home because I want to live in the moment right now. Noah and I are having a great time, and in case this is not a good message, I want to experience the disappointment later on. I know it sounds weird, but I really want to cherish this experience because you only go on your honeymoon once. Update 4. So, I'm back home, and the first thing that I did after landing was check the message from my mother. She told me that she had allowed Charlotte to live with them for a couple of days, but it had become too much to bear because all she would do was badmouth me, and after a point, my stepdad and my mom decided that it was enough. They realized that what Charlotte had done was certainly to ruin my wedding and decided to kick her out. They invited me over for dinner this weekend so they could make it up to me because they had gotten carried away since Charlotte was getting a divorce, and it seemed like a bigger deal to them at the time, and they didn't know how to deal with her emotions and made some bad calls. But they had come to their senses now and wanted to apologize. I honestly couldn't be happier, and Noah and I have already agreed to the dinner, and this is what will fix our relationship again. I guess all's well, that ends well. I just hope we never end up fighting like this again.